Welcome back, listeners, to Learning from Friends. My name is Kate Curtis, your tour guide on this lovely adventure that we get to do every 2 weeks together, and I am stoked for this episode this evening. And as you all know, before we go into the episode, we got to do our quote of the day. My niece has got this one today. Niece, take it away.
The only way to have a friend is to be one. Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Thank you, niece, for that quote on friendship. Man, that is literally what keeps the world going around, and that is what this podcast is all about. Friendship and bringing people connecting together, whether it's been a long time that I haven't seen them or I work with them every day. You never know. That's the cool thing about friendship is it can come from anywhere and everywhere. And so that's one of the reasons why I chose that quote today, because it connects in with a little bit of our fun topic today. This is going to be a fun episode. We are talking about Bigfoot and aliens, some paranormal activity stuff going on here. It's going to be a blast. My buddy Zack is coming in here, and we're going to sit down and have a blast talking about this. Who knows if this is going to be an hour, 2 hours, 4 hours. We'll see where this goes. If it does become a more than an hour and a half, we'll break it into 2 episodes. So maybe 4 weeks before you get to, 2 weeks before you get to listen to the entire thing. And so this is not the Zack Free who did our episode about Mech Warrior and Battletech. So this is Zack Thompson who's coming in here and doing an episode here for us on this one. So 2 different Zacks here. Don't get it confused out. Even though my buddy Zack Free, you're awesome. I'm looking forward at some point having you back on and we'll discuss who knows what. But Zack, welcome to the podcast.
Howdy. Nice to be here.
It is awesome to have you this evening. I know that we were at the end of January. We just got paid. Woo!
Yes.
Good day. So let's get this thing going here. Large majority of this audience, I want to go with, I like to throw a random number of 92% have no clue who you are here. What is your Wikipedia page? Give us a summary. Give us something about yourself to share with the audience.
I think at the moment my Wikipedia page is non-existent.
No,
but I'm all right with that. I like
okay.
being a man of mystery.
That's fair play.
Currently, I'm a teacher. Actually, right here, locally, born and bred, Cherokee County, like you.
There we go.
Teach history and science, high school. I enjoy it.
That's the way it should be. You got to be happy with what you do.
It's a good day today. I always leave smiling.
That's the thing. If you got to love what you do, if you don't love what you're doing, get out from it. Move on. Do something a little different.
I swore I would never do it, but here I am.
My mom, hey mom, I know you're listening, and yeah, I know you've said it 1,000 times. And she tried to stop us and tried to convince us, hey man, don't go into education. Me and my sister both got into education, and here we are, kind of going on the years later. But
my dad taught too.
Never say never. So my mom makes the comment of it's a genetic defect, so it's in our genes. A blessing and a curse.
A lot of teachers in my family also. They all swore I'd be a teacher. All my buddies did. They told me I needed to be a history teacher, and turns out at least I am right now. And they were right. I like it.
Same here. We kind of fit in that same mold, which is another one of those things. Another episode we're going to be back on later, probably summertime. We'll be we're talking about Native American history. So I'm jumping ahead and give you guys some insight for later. But today is about aliens and Bigfoot.
2 of my favorite topics.
It's going to be a blast. Now, how do we know each other? Because we're both from Cherokee County here. But what's the story here?
Well, we're both Cherokee grads, but we didn't know each other in high school. Actually, I oddly played football with your cousin.
Yeah.
I know Chase, and I have known some other Curtises, I'm sure, throughout my life.
We're around there.
Yes.
Curtises and the Cochrans. We're all in Cherokee County.
But we know each other through working and being teachers, and met. I think you were still at the same school.
Yeah, still
briefly.
working at the school.
The first year I arrived, you were still there, and then I've worked with Katie for several years after that, until a couple of years ago. So
yeah, and then having book club, being to interact and have some good times with that.
We've ran into each other over the years at local establishments. Yes,
it's been fun. That's always the good thing about it, is you never know where the relationships and stuff like that kind of grow, and so it's
I was glad to be here. I was very excited to get the invite.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm trying to go through and talk with people and see hey man, I know you have an interesting story. I know you have a good voice. Come on in. That's the cool thing. I love having the friends and the friendships that I've made over the years, and you never know kind of what's going on there. And that's whenever I first was reaching out about what you wanted to do, you threw out 6 topics. And I'm like, that one, that one. And then I was talking to my wife, Katie, and she goes, that one, you got to go back and do the Native American ones next. So no spoiler alerts on that yet. But that one we'll get to. It's going to be fun. I'm excited for that one. That's going to be I'm excited for this today too. This is every conversation is a beautiful thing. So that's starting here on our conversation here. Let's start out with one of the first hard questions here. We got a lot of hard questions, and shout out to my brother, Corey, who we had some conversations and he gave me some ideas to be able to ask some questions that are going to be popping in later on that didn't pop into my head until we started talking about it. I'm like, man, that's genius. And so we'll see where the conversation goes from there. But what is your attitude to the paranormal and scientifically unexplained, such as these two of aliens and Bigfoot?
I have to admit, I thought this first question was a good one when I first read it. Very intriguing. And I even, as we discussed previously already, the paranormal word I got hung up on when I was discussing this preliminarily with my father, and he was like, "You're not going to go off on a tangent about ghosts."
Dude, go. Just ride that wave, man.
But what was interesting, well, you said that I have never personally had a Bigfoot or a alien experience. I have people I've known, maybe an alien experience. There's some friends in the AT, they don't know what they saw. But I do know a couple guys, including one recent new friend who have had Bigfoot experiences. However, myself, I have had neither, but I did have an unexplained experience in Charleston, South Carolina one night where saw what I can only assume might have been a ghost, but, I'll just go with paranormal, and I don't exactly know what it was.
Unexplained.
Unexplained. As for aliens and Bigfoot, I think there might be enough evidence that I am open to the possibility that either could exist or did or have yet to be, known by science to be confirmed to exist.
Yeah. That's always the thing. You never can tell what's going to be exposed tomorrow. We're discovering new species every single day, and we're discovering stuff that we thought was, extinct.
Giant squid.
Yeah.
Greenland shark, a Viking myth. Could have been the inspiration for the Loch Ness Monster.
True.
Amongst some other creatures, perhaps.
They say it's less than 30% of the Amazon rainforest we have discovered.
Correct.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo River Basin. Man, I got all my stuff. The Congo River Basin. They say, those two, we've only touched the tip of it. Who knows? There could be anything in there.
Parallel for Bigfoot is that silverback gorillas, the giant mountain gorillas, they were hiding out in the heart of Africa. It's just, locals said they were there. People were like, yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, come to find out they were right.
They're there. They're just very kind of like to their own selves. And that's a big thing sometimes.
There are Bigfoot stories to tie in some Native Americans. There are Bigfoot or something similar mentioned just about every dot on the map across the globe. I mean, you have the Yeti in Asia, the Yowie in Australia, the Orang Pendek, which means little wild ape man in Indonesia, a pygmy Bigfoot version.
That one I hadn't heard of.
The Bigfoot Sasquatch that we're more accustomed to here in North America.
Yeah. There's one down in South America. I can't think what the name of it is that they use. It's a different name entirely.
Chupacabra. No,
not the Chupacabra. That's that's Midwest and Mexico kind of range. No, there's one down in South America that it's in Argentina or Chile. That's off the mountains. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. It'll come back to me later. But there's one down there.
Can't think of what it's called either.
There's so many different names for all the different things out there.
Oh yes, there's some great, potentially unexplained, as Giorgio would go here on Ancient Alien.
Yeah.
And aliens, of course. With Puma Pumku and some other sites in South America that are exceptionally intriguing.
Around the world, there's so much stuff that is just like, how would this get here? What is this? Is there like a reasoning behind this, and how do they know scientifically how to do something like that?
Yeah,
that's always been intriguing to me.
Many monolithic structures are yet to be explained.
True. Now, what was the original kind of like attraction for you to this concepts and ideas that kind of led you to kind of jump off? You mentioned the experience in South Carolina, but
that is certainly part of it. The Bigfoot one I was always interested in, but when I met my friend that had his own Bigfoot experience, that sent me into overdrive in college. I'm like, wait a second, this is a guy I actually know, and he says he saw one in the flesh and blood.
Yeah,
that was new, because at first I thought he was joking, and then he's like, dude, I know you think I'm joshing you, but
no, like this is legit.
So as a boy, I have always been into history, science. My dad had an atlas from the 70s that I read through 100 times.
Oh yeah. Did you have the Britannicas and things like that you read
Yes,
through?
I
Books?
really loved atlases and maps. So I've always been into geography. Globes. My dad has an old globe from the 50s. That's totally different than today. I always thought that was cool.
Oh yeah, then all the different countries that
different countries. Some of the shapes are wrong. It's pretty neat. But really, I mean, like in elementary school, at 6th elementary, like starting in probably like 2nd grade, every year when I'd get the textbook, I would have the history, whatever social studies book it was, I'd have it read within 2 or 3 weeks. Like it was
on the covers. You loved it.
Yeah, I would be like, okay, give me something new. But I'd flip to the back and like I like presidents, so I'd study, memorize things like that, like presidential facts. But like I got hung up on this idea when I learned about it, of the things, the myriad of things I was interested in, this conception of an animal that was unknown to science, that was this missing link. And the missing link captured my attention, and it still, it baffles me today and ties in, the potentially aliens and Bigfoot. And even as a double-sided answer, I would say that even my early experiences in my youth in church may be very open to the idea of aliens. I mean, God itself is by definition extraterrestrial. Every deity is.
That's true.
And that
because you kind of like
maybe not the Native Americans.
You can't look them straight in the eye. You can hear the voice that kind of comes to it. The
omnipresence.
Yeah, omnipresence that comes in.
Or the earthly thing.
Yeah.
Being. I was always open to the possibility that there is kind of an infinite number of possibilities of things that could exist out there in the cosmos.
That's a true statement. You never know what are we alone? Like, are we alone?
Yeah, I was open.
There's all this other stuff that's out there. Like, why would we have all these different universes and all the different galaxies and stuff?
As a boy, I wanted to take it all in. I was, dismayed with the fact that I realized one day I wasn't literally going to be able to actually have the time to learn and consume everything out there. But
that's hard.
The missing link was one that has stuck with me and really driven my Bigfoot, just being a Bigfoot aficionado. And then the aliens are equally as interesting to me.
Yeah, that's true statements of what captures your eye as a kid can carry on with you for a large part of your life. And you never know what it is that kind of gets there. My connection that goes back to why I got into it is I was at a American Family thrift store down at Blackwell Square in Time magazine, but they made book series and they made a whole thing on paranormal stuff that was like these black books, in each one of them was like a different subject. I think I wound up buying like one here and there that would pop up at the thrift store, and I was how I kind of got started looking at it. I was like, so you never know where those little things are.
Yeah.
Now there is so many misconceptions here. Do you have any that you want to like just throw out the window? Go, hey, there's a lot of misconceptions here. What do you want to hit on?
I find that there's a wide variety of people that are open to discussing the topic of aliens and Bigfoot, and that sometimes the misconception might remain, since like successful shows like Ancient Aliens, that you're all like the Giorgio Tsoukalos with the spiked up hair.
Yeah,
kind of a little bit maybe a little bit off or something. But then again, that might be true in my case too. I don't know.
I think you look great. I love the beard. I love the hair, but I'm a long hair dude myself, so I can't say anything.
Yeah, the beard's new, but I like it.
I wish I could grow a beard. Problem, mine just gets too chappy and nasty, and I just can't do it.
Well, it was 2-0 for Georgia winning national titles, so I thought I'd go for a third. I got pretty close. I might shave it now.
No, you got to start back over. Start fresh.
That's what I did after they lost that SEC championship game in Alabama. I let it grow out that season. They lost that game. I shaved. Then they won the national title. I haven't shaved since. But I guess I could shave since they lost to Alabama.
But if you enjoy it, roll with it. Hey, that's a good run. We had a good run.
It ain't over. An equally passionate subject.
But you start over, though. That's the thing. At the end of that, you start back over because we have to go back to 1 again because we've lost that little record there.
Shall be interesting with a 12-team playoff next year. Yeah. I will say this. And Kirby, if you hear this podcast, I hope you hear me. If Bigfoot's proven to be real, I hope Kirby Smart in Georgia is the first to recruit him to play defensive end and rip the limbs off people.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Maybe he's intelligent enough to join us. on the field of play. That Chewbacca out there at left end.
Do you know what? I think that'd be great. Kirby, get on it. Start sending people out.
And Star Wars is real.
You know what? That's another topic for another day to go into it.
Far, far away.
No, gosh, there's so many things out there on the internet. It's ridiculous. Of all these people that say, "Oh my gosh," like some of it, like they make up to poke fun at people. Some of it is, I believe some of it actually has some background, some stuff that goes to it. What do you want to kind of say to that one? Because that's something that I say bothers me a little bit when someone bashes something that they don't fully understand and they start making videos or something making fun of it or not taking it seriously, when you can be like, hey man, like it's just, you can't explain it. Like just let it be.
I had an interesting encounter the other day when I was going over a World War I PowerPoint in my U.S. history class, and the students were thinking some of the images, they were joking, but then again, I don't think they were totally sure that they were AI generated. But I'm like, this is
we never would have thought about that.
And
exactly.
I was like, that's interesting though, because like I was like, man, now to look at it, like one of these Uncle Sam paintings does look like it kind of could be, but it was an Uncle Sam propaganda painting from the 19-teens. But I would say read. I think read. You don't have to worry about the internet messing with a book once you have it in hand.
That's a true statement.
I have tried to be selective with the readings, both Bigfoot and alien and other topics that I actually select to buy and peruse. And I think that is a healthy habit to have. And then also get you off the computer or screen or reading actually on a page. And it's just takes me back sometimes even, or back to college.
I love smelling the spine or hearing.
I was going to say that's what I was just doing.
There's something smelling to it.
This old book I found in an interesting, odd place. This is one of your better ancient alien books. And it started what some may say the ancient alien theorist is Erich von Däniken's Chariots of the Gods. And I think this is I can't remember if this is one of the original runs. This is an old one though. And I found this in the Portland bookstore, which is the largest in the world. I was on a ski trip in Oregon, and our last day we had some time to kill in Portland, and we went to this brewery, and then right around the corner was the world's largest bookstore. It's like 10, 12 stories tall. I mean, like a whole floor of kids' books, a whole floor of science.
That's awesome.
And I wanted to see, Dad was like, is there any books you think we'd want to get? And I'm like, nah, and this one finally came to mind. One I didn't have. And I went, and that was the only copy they had. And I was very glad to find it. It was pretty cool. And as he would say, Erich von Däniken, who is still alive, if I'm not mistaken, he is Swiss. And he's, as the cover itself here has Cheers to the Gods ? It's healthy like to remember with both these subjects. We're asking questions,
Yeah.
Questions that as a historian I would like to be able to find out. We've been studying history and archaeology and anthropology and things to really be able to understand them. Maybe a few hundred years we've been really unearthing things.
This is very true. It's still very young.
Antiquity, we studied antiquity, and they had their knowledge too, but as far as studying things in depth, LIDAR is going to, I think, uncover a lot of things over the next few years. Ancient sites and jungles and places that are overgrown. But
all these different things are starting to pop up.
Time and dirt and water, especially, if you're talking especially over 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And Mother Nature can grow over and cover up a lot that maybe we don't know. I think sometimes we feel too big for our britches and forget that we existed on the planet for hundreds of thousands of years at a minimum, as we are. Could be longer,
but we can only really date back of actual like history written down of only so much. Like that's the whole thing.
There's very little, if anything, that exists other than bones past the last ice age in 10,000, 12,000 BC roughly.
Yeah.
However, we've
uncovered bodies that are older than that.
Might be on the cusp. Yeah, we were like we are today. It's just,
just different.
Were we really just picking our nose and being hunter-gatherers all that time? Or did we maybe have a civilization that we don't even know existed?
That's true.
Was advanced, perhaps even.
And then when Ice Age and all that stuff came through, wiped things out, and you had to start from scratch again.
So if there's a species of aliens, or multiple ones, or a species or a at least intelligent hominid creature out there, I could maintain that they could hide their existence, especially in small numbers.
Oh, entirely. If it's a small group, anything can be hidden in a small group.
If I had to bet,
Because who knows? They may be like so microscopic, like that we can not see them, but they're there. Think about all the microbes and stuff on our bodies and cells and stuff that's here. We
Certainly.
don't really know the form of what something fully could be.
Well, if it was highly advanced, I would say where I would hide would be in the oceans.
Because we haven't seen
many.
What is it? I don't even know what the number is, but it's a small amount of the oceans that we've been able to explore.
Yes, I mean, there's been very few attempts even to the bottom, to the Marianas Trench, and then you got
all that pressure that's there.
World War II. There are quite a slew of sightings of USOs and UFOs alike.
It's true. That they do have written out.
One of my favorites is actually not a report that was done by soldiers, but one that was done by the entire city of Los Angeles. There was a titled "The Battle Over Los Angeles," if I'm not mistaken. Newspapers took pictures of it. There is a craft. You can see it in spotlights over and near a base in LA, and it's got things being shot at it. There's a guy I think got killed from the shrapnel, and it was left unexplained to the public, pretty much, other than some people thought it was the Japanese, some people didn't know what was going on. I think it was eventually officially left as like a
open like
I don't remember if it was a
mistake
or like a false alarm, or if they said it was like a drill.
I'm sure they probably try to label off as a drill, because that's the one thing that comes up a lot with the military base that I read. Is like, oh yeah, this was just a drill, we're experimenting with a new weaponry or knew something like that we just kind of wanted to see, or oh yeah, we accidentally slipped something into the water that perhaps messed with some people. One
of the best maybe UFO sighting that's recorded is Rendlesham Forest, which is at a base, a US, if I'm not mistaken, a US air base in England. Rendlesham Forest is a forest there in England, and it was next to this base, and there is an officer that has an encounter that maintains the story to this day, and even touched the craft, actually.
Oh, wow.
And there was multiple encounters. They went out the next night and saw craft orbs. I can't remember. I think it was craft the first night, orbs the second time, because it was landed, had like hieroglyphic markings on it. And he touched it, and he since has seen a series of zeros and ones and had to write it down in a journal. And it's very interesting because there was multiple people who witnessed those occurrences.
And what surprises me a lot, whenever you get some of these appearances and things like that, early 1900s, 1800s, a lot of those people would be taken away. I'm using quotation marks there, taken away and put into an asylum or taken away. And you're like, oh, they're just crazy. Like they're not all there. And that's something that for me was always really bothersome. And we always try to write it off.
Well, yeah, even, I believe it was the guy, one of the guys that had something to do with, I think, Project Blue Book, or maybe it was another government operation, I can't remember, but eventually ends up getting pushed out of a window in D.C., mysteriously. I think officially committed suicide. I believe I have that correct. I think it was one person affiliated with Blue Book that ended up not being satisfied with the forthcoming information back then, like the 50s, 60s. You made an interesting point a second ago when you said the 1800s, because that, as a historian, is also something that's interested me, is alien reports or unexplained UFO sightings, I'll say, and that of Bigfoot reports in newspapers in America in the 17 and 1800s. Before anyone had the term Bigfoot, and before
start using it, yeah.
Those guys only standard to be labeled crazy and strung out to pastures.
Yep.
But there was a few mountain men, including one in New England, and I think the late 1700s, maybe even pre-Revolutionary War, who claimed to have woke up being abducted over the shoulder of a big, giant, hairy creature and flung down at their camp. And there's multiple ones. And while they were going through his stuff, they got into his tobacco and got to like sneezing and upset, and he split. But he told the local newspaper about it. And what was that?
It's a very good point, because of it. It was there. People put it into place.
There's in the 1500s, I believe, one of the early like wood block prints of a aerial battle over a German town, that like the whole town witnessed, including craft that went smoking and landed in the surrounding area. that one gets me too. Like with the whole town, just
Just all of a sudden, like why would a whole town not?
was it a mass hysteria they all believed in? I was watching a show
True.
right before I came over here on the History Channel talking about it was like I think it was more 1600s France, where a whole town got this whole dancing bug. This one lady started dancing.
I know this one.
And
yes.
the whole thing. And and that makes me think maybe that's what happened in that German town, but there was another German town that had a similar thing at a similar time.
There was one in France in the 1700s as well that had a whole experience on one of the mountain ridges that separated out between in France, that there was a whole village that people kind of pop up and saying, oh my gosh, we've seen this. This was what kind of, and it came back multiple nights. That was in the 1700s. I can't remember the name of it. I'm spacing from it now. But throughout Europe, there seemed to be a fair amount in the 1700s, and which is always curious to me of why certain areas do we kind of pop into? Who knows?
True. But to answer the original question, again, you're right. I would say there is tangible evidence to be had in the form of books, and then you reading about the encounters that existed even long ago. There is some evidence to be had out there.
Why is it that scientists kind of like fight back against this? There's a lot of a lot of mainstream scientists that just like kind of want to push back and just be like, or government officials and things that go, no, like this is not here. I'm like, I've always kind of thought about that.
I mean, the Navy recently, I believe, has been publishing some things that are unidentified encounters of the military kind very recently that it make you really wonder. It's just kind of nice to see them giving up that information willingly.
Yeah, because for a long time, again, it's just nothing.
I don't know. I would say that with mainstream academia, it's preservation of their job or their standing in the community. And don't want to risk somebody maybe not buying a book, or university or somebody not hiring them because they're on the fringe, perhaps. Who knows? That's
the that you never can tell what is controlling something behind the curtains. That I always say, don't look behind the curtain. Don't peek behind the curtain here.
Well, as I told you earlier, we were talking about, I had a conspiracy theory class in college by probably my favorite professor throughout the different colleges I attended, and had him for Southern politics. A very interesting guy, James LaPlante. Did not think I would have the opportunity to take his conspiracy theory class. I was a tad disappointed because it was almost nothing about conspiracy theories that I'd learned in the class throughout the semester I didn't already know.
Yeah.
But it did give me a chance to explore some more deeply. And the first day of class, I was very eager to be in there. It was like 50 or so people in there, and most of the people asked the same. Even some people kept wanting to know about the same things. That he had everyone raise their hand and say, "What conspiracy theory would you like to learn about, or do you not know about?" Or it was something. Everyone said JFK, the moon, 9/11, quite a number out there. The
basic stuff, Elvis, and all those little different things.
Yeah, and I kept thinking I was the very end, going to be one of the next to last people. And I'm like, someone's going to say mine before he gets to me, and no one did. And I got to say aliens and Bigfoot, and he's like, "Ooh," and he knew me, but. He was like, I'm been told by the university system we're not supposed to cover those subjects because they're not technically considered academia. They're more considered myth and legend. And that, to me, in the class was like, oh, that only makes us more curious.
Now I need to know more.
But I did learn a lot about RFK's assassination. If there's a conspiracy theory out there that might be the most believable to me, that one might be it. Haven't done some research into it. Believe he's still alive. Sirhan might be innocent, or might have been duped or brainwashed, but I like conspiracy theories. So
Katie was watching a thing the other day about the different scientific testings that we did on people of how far could someone be able to go,
like
that they're still
shock therapy.
Yeah, that in like the LSD test and with testing with marijuana and it was a military test to see how far they could be able to work with citizens before they're incapacitated, like enough where they're no longer comprehensible. And it was like a government run test of using all these different stuff to try to figure out how can we make somebody docile to the point that we can be able to better like invade or better be able to like crowd control kind of in a way. So there's a lot of interesting stuff. So it makes me kind of wonder in some of these areas of whenever they were pushing somebody away or saying, oh, that they're discredited, do they use some kind of weird tactic possibly to cover up something. I don't know.
In
You know.
kale.
Da, 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 da. It's so hard whenever we say throughout history, it's being mentioned. It's being kind of put out there.
People say, where's the evidence?
Yeah.
Well, there's some.
They're
People, there
everywhere.
are witnesses. There is some evidence. Bigfoot in particular.
Yeah, with all the
There's
different
evidence.
stories throughout history, that's kind of.
I mean, actually, tangible evidence.
Yeah.
Video evidence. The Patterson Gimlin film is quite compelling.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
I personally have quite the connection with animals. As you noticed, your cat took to me immediately.
Oh yeah, dude.
Coming in.
My
here.
cats love you.
I have quite the connection with dogs. Most people usually find, and I find it to be true. Lots of animals, horses too. But I think that is a real creature in that film. It may not be in existence today. Maybe all the Bigfoot and Sasquatch are long dead, and maybe that was one of the few. But I think that is a female Bigfoot. It's got breasts, hairy ones. They're bouncing, but that is not a 8-foot tall giant Bigfoot man, Harry and the Henderson version.
Yeah, true.
It is his girlfriend, and I see muscles rippling in her thighs. It made me think it is a real bipedal hominid. Intelligent creature, because that creature looks with intent. I got to get out of here. I see those guys. I'm not going to attack them.
Yeah.
I'm not uncontrollable. I'm getting out of here. And if you notice in that film, it is a dried riverbed after there has been a flood, and there is debris everywhere, logs, rocks. It is not steady, and that creature is hoofing it. And if it's a man in a suit, they're doing an incredible feat.
That's the thing at the end of the day. Like some of those things that you look out there, you can't answer that. Like how can you be able to book that? How can you be able to move?
One guy that tried, I don't remember his name. And this is an episode of, I believe, an old Discovery Channel, maybe Travel Channel, back when they actually had some cool television. But it was an episode where there was a gentleman who was the lead costume design expert in Hollywood. And I think it was the 50s, 60s, and 70s. He was the guy, main costume design expert in the movie industry for about better part of 30 years, if I'm not mistaken. And they had him as a retired man come on and see if he could fake this Bigfoot suit that's in the Patterson Gimlin film. And using a computer and the video, he deduced that the dynamics, the way of the slope, especially the angle of the forehead of that creature, you would not have been able to get a human person in a suit that they could see and move like that at that time to the technology. Even today, he was like, I don't think you could reproduce it. So that was very convincing to me, is that it's maybe one of two things. I mean, it could be a doctored film, but I don't think in 1966 or 9 when that came out. I can't remember what year.
It was 60s. Yeah, I remember it being 60s.
68 maybe. I can't remember. But in Patterson Gimlin, I believe, we're kind of looking for Bigfoot even. They'd heard us in the air. This in the Emerald Triangle in Eureka, in that area, those 3 counties in the northwest corner of California, Trinity, Eureka, and Humboldt County. They're good for several things. One is pot. The other, just like the pod dealers used to hide out there, Bigfoot. And that's where my friend that I said had an encounter. He came from Eureka.
Wow.
He's a Native American. He was part Hoopa and part a couple other things. I can't remember him. His dad, granddad, uncles, great-grandparents had been there for a long time. And he used to be like me. He said that he would make jokes to them when he was a boy, and they'd be like, don't joke about it, man. It is out there.
He's there.
And one day as a teenager out at a well-to-do person's house, out in the middle of nowhere, he went to this girl's, he said it was a very swanky tree house out from the main house.
Ooh. And
that he came down from it to go take a piss, and then thought he saw a weird formation in the tree ahead of him in the shadow of the moonlight. And then the creature withdrew, what he thought was like a bush or a tree withdrew behind a bigger tree, and then he saw eyeballs, and then he bolted.
I don't blame you at that
and my
point.
friend was a big guy. He's offensive lineman. He was a large man. So.
Takes a lot to kind of push that, but still in the woods, using it, something looking at you, you never know what it could be. It's survival of the fittest at that point, just to kind of, me or you, what do I got to do?
And all his family had encounters, and he had a couple other stories that were very interesting. But yeah, they're in Eureka. They're around where that film was shot. Then and now, I think there could be still residing a small population of some bipedal hominidal very intelligent, probably the closest in intelligence to us, if any, of any other creature on the planet. It would have to be, I would think, to survive this long.
Yeah, what I was
Undetected.
curious is, are they like just good hide and seekers? Are they like, just non-sociable? Like, how are they able to keep so well hidden?
He told me a couple things I have heard since on like TV and things that I had not heard on programs or even Bigfoot things beforehand. And this was 2009, 2010 when my friend had these conversations. And
yeah,
he said they're smart enough to make fire, which is incredibly smart.
Yeah.
Smart enough to do it and keep it hidden in caves in very remote location with layers of lookouts. And then also smart enough to bury the dead.
that's one thing that we don't really have many body structures, body stuff to kind of put in place of like, how can you be able to look at that? Because there's not many mammals that are like big mammals discovered like of that size.
Yeah.
For a lot of times it's like, okay.
Well, oftentimes you don't find those carcasses of any creature. I mean,
True.
even
It's very true.
mountain lions, things like that, they, like a dog, will go away to go hide in a corner and tuck them. So ask hunters, it's not that common to find large large predator remains. Now, is Bigfoot a predator or not? Carnivore or not?
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
a different question.
That's a different question.
And what some of my friends said there could be hearsay about the fire, could be conjecture. Because again, where's the body?
We know people for, look at the Viet Cong, whenever the guerrilla warfare of like, they lived underground and for
some of the largest cave systems in the world.
Exactly.
In Vietnam.
Exactly. And you can still be able to go and tour some of those things and go through and see it.
Some of the largest known.
Yeah, there we go. Exactly. Because look at any mountain system.
Cappadocia.
That's out
in
there.
Turkey. There was people living underneath in elaborate cave systems, large numbers, maybe as many as 10 to 30,000 I've seen it estimated.
Who knows?
For long periods of time. And they had magnificent, I mean, the way the land there is in Turkey, it was conducive to them being able to construct these. But why were they hiding there? Where I lived in Durango in Colorado, the school I went to, Fort Lewis, it's near Mesa Verde. And Mesa Verde, similar to Cappadocia, why did those cliff dwellings, why did they have to hide out there?
Yeah, why did they have to be that high up? Well, what's the point?
We found that, but we still don't know really who.
That whole entire area is gone. Like, that whole story is no longer there.
To speak of that area and aliens, there's one thing there in my time in Colorado and in the Four Corners region I did not do that I planned on and wished I had, and it is very way out of the way.
There's still time.
I will go one day. Whenever I go back, I'm going to make a trek, and it is very far away, called Chaco Canyon, and local Native Americans there, Chiricahua, Jicarilla, different bands of the Apache, they all say, if you want, Southern Ute, if you want to know about aliens and see some evidence of some things, go to Chaco Canyon, which is very isolated. You have to drive out a dirt road quite a piece to get there, and if you have car trouble, you're going to be...
You're there. Yeah, you're on your own.
Yes.
AAA is not there.
No. Did not make it out there. I would like to one day.
That's one of those areas that it's always surprising. These places are everywhere. Whenever you kind of pop up and look at it, there's places down in, I think it's in Zimbabwe, there's a mountain that basically they say, I can't think of the name of it. When you walk out to it, you don't come back. Like, it is one of those spaces that people that have gone out there trying to get to it, man, see, I'm terrible. I should write my notes down and be able to know what some of these things are, but you never know what comes in conversation.
Well, no, I mean, yeah.
But the mountain you're walking up in Zimbabwe, and you get to it, and it's almost like, not man-eater, but you go out there, there's no one ever comes back from it, and scientists have gone out there to try to like explore and learn about it. They've never come back. And it's a whole entire space here that you're just like, okay, like, what else in the world if you're looking at people that have, they say, well, wait a second, maybe they, wind up
Bermuda Triangle, Devil's Triangle.
Bermuda Triangle, things like that kind of pop up, or maybe they just decided they came back but changed their name and became something else, and or somebody's out there who's offing them, before they get back. Who knows?
Makes me think of a couple movies. It makes me think of Lara Croft Tomb Raider when they go to that up on that mountain there in Africa, and then also makes me think of the 90s, the gorilla movie Congo.
Yeah,
I like that. I remember watching that one day when I was homesick.
Now, with the whole system here? Do you think you mentioned about Yetis and you mentioned about all these different locations that we mentioned around the world? Do you think there's like different breeds or something of these things of Bigfoots? Like,
I think they might be all distant, really related cousins long ago. I think the Yeti. There could be even multiple types of the Yeti there in Asia. Bhutan has a lot of.
Yeah, because you mentioned about the pygmy. Like,
and that's in
like
Indonesia, the orang
Exactly.
pendek. I had an interesting encounter one day at Bonnaroo, nonetheless, where it was, I don't remember the year, but it was the year Tom Petty headlined, and we were in line that Sunday for Tom Petty early. Like, there was a bunch of bands lined up that were going to be good to see.
There's always good acts there at Bonnaroo, man. It's continually.
I went on a strain for like 7 years in a row. That was one of them, and it was a great year. Maybe the best year. I think that was the same year as Paul McCartney, like a couple nights before that. But that day, we were standing in line. My buddy's a huge Tom Petty fan, Sean Weiss. He lives down the road in Holly Springs.
Oh, nice.
I passed several buddies' houses on the way here.
Yeah, whenever you get into this area, Tunai is very famous, and the whole area to it, unincorporated Cherokee County. Here we go.
And we're in line, and this girl kept kind of bebopping around us, and finally she kind of asked if she could join us, and she was gorgeous. One of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. She was my age. I think it was 2013, right after I got out of college, and she was about to be a teacher, and she had grown up in Indonesia, and we just got to talking, and because she knew that, like, I think her parents, they did something where they worked abroad in international affairs, and she spoke French. I took French in college, but I thought it was interesting when she told me that she grew up mostly in Indonesia, and I knew a little bit about Bigfoot already, so I asked her if she'd ever seen an orang pendek. As we stood there for like 8 hours waiting on Tom Petty, we talked about a lot.
Yeah,
but she was taken aback when I said the words orang pendek, because she spoke Indonesian fluently, and she was like,
"Whoa,
how'd you know that?" And I'm like, "That's how I learned that it means little wild ape man." She was like, "Yeah." She's like, "They're, you're not supposed to really talk about them, but there's rumors that those and certain islands, that those are still there. Well, like a pygmy version of Bigfoot," which makes sense. You get the Javan rhinoceros and other versions of pygmy creatures in that area. So I could believe that maybe long ago there was one. And then if you go a little further in Australia, the yowie Aboriginals believe in, and it's a very similar sounding creature to the Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and those other ones that we hear about.
Yeah, because you can look at the human race and see that there's so many different types of different people and the different builds and the different stuff that are there, like all the different ethnicities, all the different, races and things like that. It's all
even more to the point, I like Star Wars.
It.
One of the things I like about aliens and Bigfoot is that, maybe George Lucas wasn't just, it's all drawn from our world, but maybe he was projecting more than he thought, because maybe it was true here once that things like I said earlier, Chewbacca and Bigfoot, we know now that there were not only Neanderthals, but a multitude of different intelligent hominid, even Homo sapien creatures that existed when we did. And we ended up winning the day. But,
and we ultimately,
some of those died out, Neanderthal, but some of those also interbred in. And who's to say Bigfoot's not some distant cousin of our own, or they haven't intermingled themselves?
That's actually choose to be reclusive, because that's what you can look at. A lot of creatures that we thought were extinct are like now popping back up because like they just chose not to socialize.
That does bring me to a good dilemma though about Bigfoots, is how, if they continue to exist, how do they reproduce? Because
true point,
especially without interbreeding, if they're such in small numbers. Which the only way they could do it is to be exceptionally good hide-and-go seekers.
Exactly, man.
And really intelligent to be able to pull that off and persist in any numbers healthily.
Because that's the thing, to be able to, and to be able to carry across countries and continents.
Remote locations from...
But there's lots of remote locations.
From Northern California to Oregon to Washington to British Columbia to Alberta, where I'm soon to go, and on up into... They don't get much north of parts of Alberta and British Columbia, the reports, probably because it gets a little too cold for them.
And who knows, they may actually be able to handle that. We have birds that migrate down south in the winter. Maybe they are like...
Especially if they're in Acadia, or
exactly.
if they have fire.
Who knows? It's saying if they're able to live, and they may be able to live, maybe that's what's in Greenland. Maybe that is the home for Bigfoot, and they just they come visit the Northwest at certain times of the years. Who knows? Like... things that's we never can tell with that. Now, do you think language-wise, do you think they have like a similar language to us? Do you think they can maybe
That's a good
or
question. I
not?
don't know if
Like,
anyone would have any clue on that.
yeah.
The noises that are projected and attributed to them are very much more closely related to primate type sounds in general. And even on shows like the Finding Bigfoot show with like Bobo and them, sometimes that one was kind of
Yeah, because there's my
kinda
brain
comedic.
goes to, are they kind of like with whales, or they communicate very long
I don't
distances?
know. That's a
Or
good
like,
question.
because we have so many different frequencies that are out there that we can't hear, but like dogs can hear and cats can hear. That's something that, again, I'm going to ask that later with aliens on communications, because I think that is something that who knows?
There is a man named Les Stroud who, kind of like Bear Grylls, had whatever the name of his show was. Les Stroud had another show. I think it was called Survivor Man, or was that Bear Grylls? I can't remember.
I think that's Bear Grylls.
All right. Well, Les Stroud had one that he's a Canadian dude, if I'm not mistaken, and like me, a harmonica player, and like to carry one on his trips. And he would do something different than Bear Grylls. Bear Grylls would go with like a team, and he would go and he'd film it himself. So he'd have to, like, if he wanted to film himself walking off, he'd have to leave the camera, walk off,
And
come
walk
back
off.
and get it, and then
Yep.
go. And he eventually got into Bigfoot. Totally didn't kind of buy into it, and got with this guy Todd Standing, who lived in Alberta, and Todd Standing became interested in Bigfoot and was a guy who has done a lot of research and thought he found a little enclave of Bigfoots that existed, and took some very interesting videos of some of the best clear Bigfoot shots you'll see of any next to the Patterson Gimlin film. And this is contemporary. This is recent. This is like 10 years ago. Now, some people have said they've proven that to be wrong.
Okay.
There was like a former police officer, I think he was like a retired forensic guy, who said he deduced that Todd Standing had faked those. However, I think Todd Standing maintains that they were real, and they're very interesting looking. They're kind of creepy because it's shots of their face, and he says they're adolescents that were interested in him getting so close.
Oh, wow.
And that's why he was able to capture them, because they didn't know better, and they were teenage curiosity themselves.
That's the thing. You
Get
never
too
know with
ballsy.
teenage curiosity. And that's what that thing is going to make it harder as we're getting on in time of all the AI and all the different easier to document. Like now it's so easy to fake something or put something out there. And like it used to be, there is those skills of where people for generations could be able to learn how to be, because how do we get propaganda? How do we get all these different films that people can be able to rework and, Photoshop, things like that in the 1800s. But now it's so easily accessible.
You bring me to an interesting point. I meant to mention this earlier, and that one thing that can't be totally faked is footprints.
True.
So you got video evidence, you got witnesses, but footprints are very interesting. There's a guy named Phil Meldrum. He's a professor at the University of Idaho State. He did not believe in Sasquatch stories, but he was the track expert, considered so in North America by many, about a number of creatures. And he has quite the litany of tracks in his repertoire there in his office at Idaho State. And eventually he started to coalesce what I think today is the largest collection of Bigfoot tracks there is.
Oh, wow.
Not on purpose. He just ended up getting them, and people wanted him to see. And eventually he got one or some that he was like, wait a second, because he's a track expert. He was like, some of these are fake. Some of them are a dude, going
Just
out in the
kind of
woods
stamping in
and wanting to go, ha, I gotcha.
Yeah.
But he can catch those, even though some of them are pretty good, but a real bipedal creature that has made a move, and then you've cast it.
The way you move your feet,
Yes,
the way things lay,
he
the
says
left behind.
that there is enough evidence, enough footprints over a wide enough area that he has collected now over, I think, a couple of decades, that it has to have at least some point been from a real life, living, breathing creature that made those marks. So he became convinced when he once had not been, and he's a learned man, and I take some stock in his opinion.
That's the thing. Whenever you get someone behind you that can be able to prove the science to it and be able to kind of push, it goes a long way within a community. And that's something that I stand behind of, hey, if you can be able to prove something or look at it, I'm going to listen. even though I may not believe with it 100%, but I'm willing to like go in and I'm listening and sit because you're passionate about it and just go. I want to teach me, teach me.
I think he would contend that, you know, that the possibility that its existence is there is certainly evident.
Yeah.
There's also some compelling videos that come from Russia, but also that are kind of interesting over the years. And then there's, you know, also alien footage out there.
And that's where I want to jump to next with the alien footage of kind of going to that is, do you think, like, we mentioned contact with the aliens before and talking about contacts with Bigfoot and those kind of things here, there's so much different like atmospheric systems that we can see around the universe. That we can see that, okay, no other planet has oxygen. That we have oxygen here. And so like how do we be able to comprehend the science behind that of them being able to visit Earth without being like
span that distance?
Yeah, exactly.
The mathematics of
that far, also being able to breathe the air that we theoretically have here. And
let's say, do they breathe air?
Do they breathe air? Do they breathe, you know, like how's that kind of the science of that is crazy to think about. And being able, like, you know, are they so far ahead of us and are they not? Like what's
do they
what's
even
kind of range?
Need biological things?
Yeah.
Or do they not?
No. Yeah.
I once heard it put that the amount of maybe potential universes, but at least galaxies is like, say, our own galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, to which, you know, we're just circling around one star of.
Oh yeah, entirely.
Which is a lot of stars. But say we're one speck, one grain of sand, our Milky Way galaxy. Our galaxy is like a speck of sand on an endless beach of galaxies that is the universe. So there, and I'm not a mathematician, and I sometimes have to do my best to help with math.
But you did stay at Holiday Inn last night, right?
I did not. No, I like La Quinta. No.
I always like to reference back to random pop culture stuff, and that was a fun one.
I just find it hard to fathom that in all that mathematics, that there's not at least the possibility of some sort of life, and even more so, I would hope, intelligent life.
True.
That would just be cool to me. It doesn't shake my foundations of my ideas of God or any beliefs out there. It doesn't disprove it to me. What it was Jesus said, my Father's house has many rooms. May have been what he was referencing. I used to think about it. He meant like all dogs go to heaven, but you know, we could expand that.
That's where my brain was. I didn't think about it that way. And that's something that you mentioned with like gods and stuff. Do we, out of curiosity, I'm not trying to like open up a whole can of worms here, but
it can be interrelated though.
It could be, yeah. Who knows? That's the thing throughout history of looking at is there's so many things that, okay, we have all, you know, you're not supposed to look them in the face. Like the hearing the all powerful cutting through it, the creation of beings, okay, you have all these different gods that create certain things here on Earth. Like, I wonder if there's some, you know, kind of connection to that.
And sometimes it's cultural. You know, the Bhagavad Gita is an ancient Hindu text similar to, you know, our Bible.
Yeah, comparison
to
our
Bible for Christianity.
Yeah.
But the Bhagavad Gita, it is very old. Some people contend how old it is, and it has a lot of interesting stories that are they total myth and legend. The ancient city of Dwarka, there's a current city of Dwarka where it was, you know, kind of close to where they thought Dwarka might have been, but it was believed to be myth and legend. And then they recently now discovered like 200 feet down the coast in the water what may have been the actual ancient city of Dwarka. And it was supposedly like blowed up in the Bhagavad Gita by what kind of sounds like an aerial nuclear battle.
And that's the curious thing of like, okay, technology, like somehow, how do you think somebody is being able to bring it in? How do you think diseases can be kind of created with bacteria that's spread of like, okay, how do you think gunfire was ultimately created to be placed in here? Is this something that's like we're discovering, being introduced to us? Like that's the whole thing of science. Yes, you're experimenting, but something has to be introduced to get to that kind of point, maybe. I don't know. That's one of my weird theories that I have out there whenever it comes to seeing invention. Because Da Vinci, in order to come up with his ideas of helicopters and come up with the ideas of something, you're like, okay, where's this mind thought process coming from? And Galileo with looking up and to be able to think about looking to the universe. And ideas of gravity and things like that, and how to be able to kind of test and see this. I don't know. It's curious.
Could have been with Da Vinci. He disappeared for like a year or two, and supposedly a cave.
Yeah, supposedly, exactly. And who knows what could be exposed to at that kind of time frame. I don't know.
I like being left open to possibilities.
That's my thing as well. You never can tell. Like in Greek mythology, you look at the gods that say, okay, being able to strike down thunder, being able to look at this, again, maybe that was some form of alien ideology that came through.
You reminded me what I was trying to think of. That Native Americans and then many native peoples throughout different cultures in the world have both deities, and then also they have, especially in North America, many of them have and include Bigfoot as just one of the creatures that is in existence, that it is just counted amongst the animals that there is in the biological record, and that it's no wonder to them that they exist. It's like a nada thing.
Yeah,
they're out there, just like, right under or close to us. And then you have in other ancient cultures, certainly a lot of origin stories in Native Americans in North America and other places like in Africa and Australia that might have begun in the stars.
True. Big Bang Theory, whole process like that.
I can't think of what there's a group in Africa. I can't think of the name of them. They worship the star Sirius. Their name starts with a D. I can't think of it.
I brain went to some Bantu tribe.
No, I keep wanting to say Africa now that we said that, but I know it's kind of similar. And you can't, Sirius, if I'm not mistaken, it can't be seen with the naked eye, but they didn't have telescopes, but they knew about this star.
They knew about this.
And they're not the only culture to have a certain star or constellation, or even Sirius, if I'm not mistaken, that was known to them.
Yeah, it's very intriguing. And like through something that popped in my brain that I was thinking about, we always look at stars, saying we can't, all of a sudden a star, it would take millions of years for us before it goes away, but it has already exploded 1 million or 2 million years ago.
Oh, yeah, so
it makes my brain go into think of like, okay, we are a combative society at times. We always looking for war, looking for some kind of battle or against each other.
Fist fight.
It always comes down to a fist fight somehow.
Sword fight.
Like, is that something of like in the battle of history of something going on in another realm that's the result of something that per se multi-universe.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm open to that possibility.
I'm open to that idea here.
I know however many Zack Thompsons are out there, I'm the coolest, baddest one.
There you go. Doppelganger meet out there, you're gonna find them. You never know. Back the what I was leading to with this here is, why do we not see potentially like conflict between if the alien race is kind of coming in, like, because of usually
maybe they're pulling the strings behind it all. Bohemian Grove, the Bilderbergs, Illuminati.
Are we an experiment?
Maybe they're the puppeteer and we're the puppets.
That's true.
Have you ever heard of Valiant Thor? He's a guy that supposedly worked for the government for a few years, landed in D.C. one day, and then worked for the government. I believe in the Eisenhower administration, and then one day left.
He's gone.
Came to kind of help us not blow ourselves up in like nuclear proliferation right when it was getting started, and was concerned from or organizational body whereabouts, I don't know, that was concerned we might blow ourselves up. Yeah. Thus far we've
knock on wood. Glass on top, wood on the bottom. Yeah, that's because there's just so much conflict here, and really whenever we see aliens here, that people made abduction kind of ideas. It's like, okay, we're being abducted, we're being brought back, like people are like, oh, we're being probed or things like that, or they've disappeared, but it's like,
our organs. No.
What is there's not really a sense of violence that's there. So it's like, okay, like I wonder, like, are we just a very combative group of people in general, or is the aliens more of like,
not unless you go back to the Bhagavad Gita, those could be some deity,
true
alien
potentially,
encounters, Shiva raining down on people. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. And some people could theorize that they've had a more the last few world affairs, the big moments, like the World War One, two, nukes.
Dude, with World War One and World War Two, there were so many different explanations of during war of people saying that there was something extra.
The Kecksburg Bell, which might be similar to what the Germans' Wunde weapon, which might have been developed in there. Kind of. Some people think they're similar to that. Maybe I forget the guy's name that disappeared with the Wunde weapon, which was like a Glockenspiel type described thing that may have been able to levitate, and maybe it traveled through time and popped in Kecksburg in Pennsylvania and whatever it is, the 40s or 50s or 60s, and a lot of people saw it laying in the woods and
it was gone.
Hieroglyphic markings. No, the government came and loaded it on a flatbed truck and
gone.
Then it was gone. Kind of like Roswell. What?
We'll get there. Let's go to Roswell.
No. I want to go with abductions. You're talking about
let's go to abductions. Like, we're going to Roswell yet? Okay.
One of the good books I have is I think it's Betty and Barney. I think it's Hill. They're a couple, New Hampshire, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's Vermont. I haven't read it in a while. It's in the 50s, I believe, and they are actually a mixed race couple in the 50s, which
very risque.
Well, but it's
dangerous.
New Hampshire, I think so.
It's still dangerous at that time.
And then they were driving back home, I think, from a friend's house, and they get abducted. Is their story, and they both kind of recollected it later, the same thing, and you get kind of poked around and probed and seeing some short dudes with the big black eyes, and they wrote a book and maintained their story till their dying day, both of them. What compels someone to lie like that?
That's true. That's the one thing at the end of the day, whenever people know throughout history of, okay, I'm going to be kind of taken away or I'm going to be like ridiculed. Why would you make up a story that's going to make you ridiculed or be like persecuted in some way? Yeah, you're risking yourself.
What's in it to gain? And although I think she became a substantial alien aficionado and guest, and I believe may have wrote some other things even later, like those people in the 1700s, Old West sightings of Bigfoots and aliens, and then modern day, you're
taking a risk.
Yeah, you stick your neck out there, coming out there and saying, I saw this, especially if you're saying, I got abducted.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever that's a big one that pops up there, that people are like, oh, you've been abducted. Where, how, what, where? And like, it's some of the details that they can be able to give. You're like, this is not a science fiction movie description here. This is something a little more. Right there is where I want to take a pause in the conversation. There's still a lot more to unfold in this conversation with Zack talking about Bigfoot and aliens, ranging from, the conspiracy theories about it, the different people that have had all the different interactions from it, stereotypes that we kind of see, language, just general history that we kind of look at in some of the locations, some more locations that we'll introduce here. So we'll unpack a little bit more. We got about another hour left, which we'll pick back up there in about 2 weeks for you guys to be able to come back in here, part 2. I'm going to give some show notes there at the bottom where you can be able to see some of the books we've already discussed, some possible location things that we have mentioned in there that I'll have there at the bottom if you want to kind of be able to look and do a little bit of research of your own. But I'm also going to have some contact information for Zack if you would like to be able to reach out to him. It's some social media tags, and you can also reach out to me. I will give my email, which is Cade, C-A-D-E, at learningfromfriends.com. That is a great way to be able to reach out with me, and I can be able to connect with Zack as well. I have a Facebook page as well if you want to be able to reach out there and just contact, say hi, check in, whatever you feel comfortable on, which is Learning from Friends Podcast, which is on Facebook. I also have a Twitter page that is there if you want to be able to go on to the same Learning from Friends podcast. I have a Patreon page if you'd like to go on and donate. That'd be awesome. Every little bit of contribution counts and goes a long way. So, I'd be appreciative of that. Whether it's $1, $10, $100, whatever you're feeling more comfortable with, I would love it. So as we're getting ready to kind of wrap down here, I have a request of please go out, share information with your friends about this podcast, what you like about it, recommend maybe an episode. We're going on 70 plus episodes here. So there's a lot out there. So please, that's my big major request from you guys. Go out and share the word right there. But with that, that's leave out here for today with our lovely catchphrase here. My name is Cade Curtis, your tour guide on this lovely adventure that I like to call Learning from Friends.
And most of all, don't forget, let your curiosity fly high.